Hi, my name is Michael Pei. I live in Temecula, California, and I work as an IT director for a web services company.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. I know we've been communicating over the last couple of years over
Yeah.
emails and last couple of months over messages as
Mhm,
well.
mhm.
And now it's good to see you here in person.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
I know yesterday we had an opportunity to kind of spend time together in person at a mastermind, and last night we had dinner as
Yeah.
well, and we had great conversations. And I know since you've been following us for so long, that you're one of our most loyal readers and followers and customers. And one of the things I'm really curious about is
Mhm.
how you originally found us, because you've been with us for 5, 6, 7 years now.
Yeah, I don't know for certain the date, but yeah, like 5, 6 years.
Do you
Yeah.
remember how you found us?
Yeah, actually I do, which is interesting. There was a site that published OmniFocus One themes, and I was an OmniFocus user from the early days and ran across the Asian efficiency theme, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of an interesting name. And more importantly, I liked the design of it, so I immediately put it to use. But then, it kind of keyed off of Asian efficiency, so I ended up tracking it down and finding the blog, and of course have been a follower ever since.
I always get interesting reactions when I say Asian efficiency.
Mhm.
Some people think it's funny, some people think it's a little weird. What was your first impression?
I thought it was cute. I thought it was definitely a good way to kind of stand out without being too gimmicky. And of course, once you hit the site and you find out, okay, that's why it's called Asian efficiency. That makes sense. But I think it definitely works out very well to kind of not take yourselves too seriously, but still get the point across.
Now, as an IT director, I know you have so much stuff going on, and one of the challenges that people have when they work in IT is that they can't really schedule their own day. So can you maybe describe to people what a typical day looks like in IT and how crazy it is?
Yeah, no, it really is difficult because you're spending your time working on projects that take weeks, months, in some cases years to work on, but you're also very interrupt driven. Things that come up, a service that goes offline, or a user, or more importantly a VIP user, such as an executive needing some support, you have to basically drop everything and get things taken care of. So it is definitely a challenge to make the best use of the time when you have it.
So what inspired you to then say, okay, I want to be more productive, I'm going to use this app OmniFocus in your
Mhm.
case. What inspired you to become more productive? What is your motivation behind it?
For me specifically, when I got into OmniFocus and the GTD methodology, it was really out of practically desperation. I had so many details I had to track, I had to capture them all. Otherwise, I was going to be losing things left and right. And since I tend to be a detail-oriented type of person, that just horrified me. So that's when I got into OmniFocus, and that alone was just wonderful to be able to capture it all, to as David Allen says, get it out of your head so that you can start having thoughts and really working on problems rather than trying to memorize everything.
So you started off with GTD.
Mhm.
That was like your entry
Mhm.
gateway into the whole productivity world, and then you started using OmniFocus as a tool to use that philosophy, and
Mhm.
then you found us. And how do you think our philosophy or our methods is different from everybody else out there?
Well, one of the things I've always liked about Asian efficiency is that it's basically a holistic approach. It's not like AE says, well, you do this and you'll be perfect, or you do these 3 things and all the world will be good. It is the reality that everybody's situation is different, everybody works differently and have different approaches to their work and life. And so by presenting all the different options, it allows the reader and the viewers or listeners to be able to determine what is going to work best for them. And that's the part that I've always liked about Asian efficiency.
So going from liking the content, you then eventually joined some of our programs.
Mhm.
Right, so you brought our OmniFocus course, you have our
Correct.
productivity blueprints,
Mhm.
you're in the dojo. So what motivated you to say, okay, I'm going to dive deeper into these programs?
It just, as my career developed, as I went from sysadmin into manager and now as IT director, it is definitely critical to make sure that I am maximizing my time, maximizing my efficiency, because I don't have the time to spare. And of course, I have a family. It is not an option in my mind to work 10, 12-hour days or 6, 7 days a week. I want to have time at home or on the weekends and not feel bad about it, but yet still have confidence that I'm getting done during the day what I need to get done.
So how does it feel now being in control of your schedule thanks to some of the materials that you went through?
A lot better, certainly. And nobody's perfect. I struggle, I stress still, I get overwhelmed, but I definitely have a lot more confidence that when I'm being disciplined, when I'm actually truly instilling good practices, I am making sure I'm focusing on the important things first and head down, working on what I need to get done, and what remains will last until the next day.
So before you joined the programs, did you have any hesitation in joining? Because we have different programs with different prices, and I know you started off with OmniFocus first, and then you went to the Productivity Blueprint, which is way more expensive than anything else. Was there any sort of hesitation that you had?
Not with OmniFocus. That was easy. I mean, like I said, I was a early and heavy user of that. So when you had a series of posts, and when you ultimately created a product around that, and plus additional content, that was a no-brainer for me, because I wanted to squeeze out every single bit out of that program as much as I could, and especially since AE had developed a good approach of organizing and managing tasks in there. I certainly want to learn, at least as an example, to compare how I've been doing it and crib what I can to improve how I'm working. When it came to Productivity Blueprint, certainly that's a higher priced product. I certainly had some hesitation, and but looking at what the content was contained in that, and ultimately the need that I had, or certainly the desire to improve how I'm working and was working, it's something that allowed me to come to grips with that very easily, and ultimately not regret it at all.
So now, looking back at the old days of Stressful Mike and having all these things going on to now, what does your day look like now, and how do you feel about structuring your day?
I almost live out of OmniFocus. Just the idea of so much of what I do is routine based. So I have my morning work routine, morning home routine, evening work and home routines, as well as the things that happen Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or the first of the month, or whatever that the time scale, that allows me to have confidence of what I need to do, look how the day is going to progress. But then, of course, outside OmniFocus, things like Inbox Zero and proper mail management and Pomodoros to not only focus on what I need to work on for a project, but then have the permission with the break after a Pomodoro to take a walk, get some sun, talk to a colleague, maybe surf Facebook for 5 minutes before I get back to work, and I don't have to feel guilty about it, nor do I have to worry that it's going to turn into a 45-minute sidebar.
One of the things that I really appreciate about you is getting to know you over the last couple of years, and especially yesterday as we're going through the mastermind, is that you have this body of knowledge when it comes to productivity. Everything that's out there, you've studied them all, you know every single technique and every sort of system out there. And for people who are on the fence when it comes to starting into this whole productivity world and getting started with it, where do you think people should start?
I think what a good way to start, of course, is go to Asian Efficiency and look at the content there. But assuming that was already the first step, is to try to learn from others. Productivity is very much a personal thing. Anyone that indicates that, oh, you do this and everything will be great, that may be true for them, but with everybody's work styles and personalities, that isn't necessarily the case. So it is sampling, it's trying, it's reading. Certainly you can kind of turn into a rabbit trail, but it is giving yourself that permission to give it a try, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Not everything is for everybody, but look for the next thing and find out what works best for you, the individual, in the work that you're doing.
And that's one of the key things I tell people all the time is, okay, there are all these systems out there, there's something for everybody, but the challenge then is, how do I turn this information or the system and use it for my personal situation. And like you said, everybody's a little different. Everybody has their own unique needs, and how do we make sure we personalize it? And so when we develop our programs, we always look for ways to make it very easy for people to say, hey, how do I tailor this? How do I make this my own? So what would you tell people who are on the fence about purchasing one of our programs?
It is ultimately to realize that if you have more control over how you work, you're going to have a lot more freedom in your personal life too. I think while productivity certainly can be applicable personally in your evenings and weekends, but I don't think most people are going to do a Pomodoro while they do dishes necessarily, but maybe that works for what you're doing. But it is ultimately realizing that most people are just so stuck in how they work. It's very easy to get distracted and not realize that there might be a better way to work. And I think that is that take that step back and realize, what is preventing you? Why are you resistant? Is it fear of the unknown? Is it uncertainty that it's going to work out for you? The reality is, give it a try. And if it works out for you, great. And if there's other programs that also work out for you, do those too. Productivity isn't a one and done kind of thing. It's a lifelong approach to how you work.
Yeah, even to this day, I still try to figure out how to do things better,
Mm-hmm.
more efficient. So do you and everybody else that we know. And like you said, it's a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm.
There's always things to do more efficiently, more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one big takeaway that people can take from this conversation is to say, hey, if you're on the fence, don't think of it as a one-stop shop thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go through this process. You're going to get better at it. You're going to be more efficient. You're going to save more time. And then as you grow, new challenges arise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've seen this too over the last couple of years as you become more productive and more
Mm-hmm.
effective. Yes, you create more free time and more freedom, but then new challenges arise, especially if you enter a new job, a new role, you go higher up in the organization, things change and
Right.
things move forward. And one of the things that I really appreciated about yesterday when you were at the mastermind
Mm-hmm.
was you gave a perspective that other people needed to hear
Mm-hmm.
because you have a background in IT,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times when people work in IT, like we talked about before, they can't really schedule their own day. So they have to
Mhm.
be very creative in how they
Mhm.
do things and how they manage their time. And a lot of people who watch and listen, they say, oh man, I work in IT. I can't do focus blocks. I can't do Pomodoros. What else can I do? What would you tell these people?
Really, ultimately, you want to find out what is the biggest pain point. What if there's the one thing that you could make better or make go away. Focus on that. Is it, maybe closing your door and trying to get head down on a project. Maybe even schedule a meeting with yourself to give you that permission to focus on a project. One practice I've done in the past is I basically effectively go and hide. I'll either book a meeting room for myself or I'll find an empty office and I'll work in there instead. And if people can't find me, the world won't end. I'm not disappearing for hours at a time, just an hour. And just because I want to get focused on something, and then I'll turn back up and available to whatever might be going on at the moment.
I have an interesting question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday was your first mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
Were you nervous?
Yeah. Well, nervous, and I didn't know what to expect.
Especially since it was your first
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what were some of the thoughts that you were having before you came here and before you attended the mastermind?
The biggest thing I struggled with was determining what my question should be, since I didn't know who the audience would be, who would be in the room. I didn't know how to tailor it. I also didn't know how to articulate it. So that was certainly one of my biggest concerns. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, one of my big takeaways, and what I appreciated about the mastermind that we did yesterday, was the complete cross-section of people that were there, the diverse personalities and backgrounds and problems. I thought, granted it's only my first, but if I imagine what one would be where it's all the same type of viewpoint, say IT professionals, that certainly has its value, but I almost like the idea of having something that has nothing to do with IT, give some perspective as a user or just as I've done retail sales and here's something that might be germane to what you're talking about. And I thought that was ultimately a lot more valuable.
How did you feel after going through a whole day of a mastermind with us? How did you feel afterwards?
I enjoyed it. I like getting to know everybody just a little bit about what they're dealing with and how they work. Also, it was nice to just appreciate that everyone has problems. You know, it's not just you and everyone else has their life all squared away. Everyone's got challenges. And I also like actually being part of people's solutions, even to a small extent. Just if I have some wisdom or some knowledge or just an opinion, and it just even gives you a glimmer of hope or a spark an idea, great. I'm glad I was able to be part of that.
There are a lot of people watching who might never have been to a mastermind like yourself before, and they might be hesitant to attend one or join one. What would you tell this person?
Well, you'd ultimately want to determine what you're trying to get out of it. Certainly, my appreciation for a mastermind is if you presented a problem to family or friends, you're generally going to get responses that are going to be what you would hope, because it's just natural to tell people what you think they want to hear. And going to a mastermind where there's people that basically don't know you and maybe aren't necessarily indifferent, we're all here to try to solve problems, but they're trying to be constructive about it. And so if you have a problem that you can't break through and you're in an echo chamber because everyone else that you talk to is either in the midst of it and so can't be outside of it to appreciate alternate perspectives, or just plain, just can't appreciate what's going on, I think going to a mastermind is a good way to force you, when you ask the question and as you phrase it, to be able to articulate it in a way that makes sense to someone outside your field. And just even that act alone can be, help you realize what might be going on. But then, of course, the feedback that you receive in return is going to be, immensely valuable, or can be, certainly.
Yeah, that's a big concern that people have, is when they go to something like this, they might get feedback that they don't know if they're ready for. And one of the things that I liked about our group yesterday was everybody was very receptive, was very humble, and was there to help each other and lift each other up, not to put each other down. And one of the great things and powers of a mastermind is to go in with a challenge that you have, and then walking out and saying, okay, I know exactly what I need to do now. And I have this confidence knowing that I'm on the right path and I know what I need to do. And this is something I couldn't get from just talking to family members, like you said, because they don't want you to change. They just want you to stay in your little bubble and be comfortable. But if you want to make drastic changes, or if you want to improve something in your life, you have to go to other people who don't have some sort of investment in you, right? And I hope that's something you took away too.
Oh, absolutely. For my problem that I presented, I ended up getting a result that made me think completely differently. Just the questions that were asked, and not so much challenges, just clarifying questions, or okay, what are you trying to do, or what are you hoping to get out of it, as the ultimate result, helped me realize that maybe I've been thinking about this wrong, and I thought that was really, really helpful. And so I think a big part of it is, if you're ever going to do a mastermind, is to truly not be married to your idea. I mean, you don't want to be married to your idea. If you want to go and just get confirmation and say, yeah, well, that's great, it's going to be $1 million or a big success or whatever the ultimate outcome is, that may not be it. Maybe it works out great, but hopefully, if the feedback is open and honest and constructive, it's going to make you at least change how you're going to approach the outcome or the next steps, at least slightly and maybe significantly.
Yeah, I would love to catch up with you at some point in the future as well, and see how things are going when you've implemented some of the things that we talked about.
Absolutely.
And is that something that you would recommend to others?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely enjoyed the experience. I hope to do it again in the future with Asian Efficiency or with others. But I think this has been a fun opportunity. It's very eye-opening, and it's very interesting to give information to others and to receive information for others, and ultimately to improve what we're all trying to do.
Well, thank you, Mike, for coming here
Thank
today.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll see you in the future.
Absolutely.